Welcome back into Ion Agriculture. I'm Britton Rucker. Armyworms are making their way across Kansas fields, and farmers are keeping a close eye on the damage they cause to crops. To help break this down, we're bringing in K-State crop entomologist Jeff Whitworth. Jeff, how do armyworms impact crops here in Kansas, and which crops are most at risk right now?
Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure always. Armyworms and fall armyworms have been a really serious problem in eastern and southern Kansas for the last 2 months. They do much the same type of damage, so it didn't matter which you had. Now it matters, whether it's a fall armyworm or an armyworm. Fall armyworms don't overwinter in Kansas, so I'm just finding a bunch of adults. Hopefully they'll get the hell out of here and go south for overwintering. Armyworms are a different story. Armyworms are native to Kansas. They will overwinter here. So they're affecting sorghum. Especially if the sorghum is just starting to flower before it hasn't gotten to soft dough stage yet. They can cause, if they're feeding in the heads, they can cause 5% loss per worm per head, and that takes your yield down very quickly if you have, 100% infestation. Also, they're going to move to wheat. So we have one generation coming on now. We lots of times have problems in wheat, just depending upon the weather. They're going to keep feeding. There's going to be another 30-day period when they're going to feed on the sorghum, as long as it's still before the soft dough stage, and then they'll move to wheat primarily. So that's another reason to plant wheat as late as possible and get rid of the volunteer wheat, because the infestations start with the moth. People don't realize that, but the moth comes out. They're coming out right now, a lot of adults, and they're looking for grass to lay their eggs on. So if they have a nice grassy patch, they will lay their eggs, and that will start the infestation.
Now, what should farmers be scouting in their fields to catch armyworm damage early? What's kind of the remedy to this?
Well, in sorghum, you need to get out and check the heads. It's really easy. Just bend the head over in a white bucket, shake it vigorously on the side, count the number of worms per head. That will give you an idea. Remember, 5% loss per worm per head. In wheat, it's a little different story. You need to get out and, again, plant wheat as late as possible to avoid all wheat pests. But get out and check your wheat. If it starts going backwards, as a lot of the growers say, or if you start seeing little window painting on the young leaves as they start to germinate, scratch around in the soil, because the larvae will hide in the soil, and they'll be pretty small, but that's when you want to catch it. Another thing, seed treatments don't work on the armyworms for wheat. They don't work on the mites. We had a lot of problems with the wheat curl mite and wheat streak mosaic this year, and they don't work on the armyworms. So you got to get out, you got to sample early on as that wheat's just germinating, making sure the armyworms aren't there. It takes a winter or like weather in the mid-20s at night for a couple hours to stop the armyworm infestation.
Well, Jeff, as always, thanks so much for coming on and chatting with me. Everyone.